Welcome to Sounding Point Podcast. My name is Joseph Christensen, and with me today is Thomas Yee. He's an alumnus of San Francisco Conservatory of Music and the founder of Bay Fine Strings. Thank you so much, Thomas, for coming on to the podcast.
It's a pleasure to share the podcast with you today, for sure.
Well, it's an honor to have you on. And so I thought today it would be really helpful for a lot of musicians today, where we're trying to kind of figure out how to deal with this pandemic in many ways. And it's been difficult with the cancellation of most live performance for musicians to make their sort of activities not only relevant, but kind of financially sustainable in the midst of this time. And I thought you were, in particular, a great person to talk to because in the last 4 years, your business has gone from renting instruments to brokering Guarneris and Gaglianos, and your rise has been incredible with Bay Fine Strings, and it's been great working with you and the company as well. So, anyway, I just wanted to maybe start out asking you how just about the origin. So, where would you say the origins are of Bay Fine Strings?
Well, I started Bay Fine Strings when I had my daughter when she was born. I had a lot of time to think about things. I was up all night for countless months, and it gave me a lot of things to think about. And just knowing that it was a decision I'd been thinking about for a long time. When I was a youngster, I always was very interested in trading. So I did a lot of trading cards and like trading of marbles and like doing other things in that kind of sort of way. And then as I continued my violin studies, I've always had that great interest in trading. And so I know that my mother would say, "Oh, you have a great business sense, and you always make others feel good about what feel good about what they had traded for." And I've always tried to think about both sides, like, oh, how it would help somebody else. And I think that those early types of passions I had for kind of trading never really always directly translated to playing violin, but I feel like through the violin and through that, my passion for that, I was able to find a calling. And so I went on to music school at the Conservatory of Music in San Francisco, where we're both alumnus of. And I started out my career as a violinist and pedagogue, which I still actively do. And so just to kind of fast forward, I decided to create Bay Fine Strings because I saw a need for that in the community, and it was something I'd been passionate about. And as a teacher in violin, I noticed that some students in different learning environments needed to have an instrument that's well set up, no matter what the size is. And other violin shops also offer, a well set up instrument, but also I wanted to present something of my own standards and to present to the community. So that really was kind of one of the driving forces behind that. And I had always been interested in having things created. And about 4 years prior to, this was back in 2012, I commissioned my first instrument. It was a violin bow by a good friend of mine now, who is Robert Morrow. He's a maker based out in Port Townsend in Washington. And that area is really known well for bow making. And that whole process was very fascinating for me and kind of led me down the rabbit hole to also working with world-class living makers, which now I'm working with dozens of makers, both in violins, violas, cellos, as well as their bows. So it kind of, with that collaboration, I started to market their work and trade in antiques and just really try to listen to what others are really truly looking for, and either dictating whether or not it was with a conversation with clients what they were looking for. So I felt that I've tried to fulfill a lot of needs based on what others tell me.
Interesting. I think it's really cool, visiting your shop and trying out the instruments. Just the volume of instruments you've commissioned and the relationships you do have with living makers as well as antiques. I was curious, just as you're talking about the beginning of the business, just assuming a lot of the musicians and maybe a lot of the people listening right now are in various stages of maybe trying to be an entrepreneur themselves, start a side hustle of some kind. I'm curious, when you started Bay Fine Strings, how clearly did you see this picture today? Are you
That's a good
were
question.
you were you envisioning exactly what you have now, or did it change as you went?
Well, let's see. I mean, that's a good question, because I think that when you're passionate about something, you have to kind of work towards the not like an end goal per se, but it's just that whole process. It's just like when we first learn music. You just learn music to learn music. Maybe we liked the sound of a particular instrument or something like that. I started Bay Fine Strings with the intent of uh, not not necessarily with the intent for profit, but more of the intent for helping the community and expanding my great interest regarding that. And so it's like that I feel like with a lot of folks growing up learning music. And so it was really that kind of thing that drove me. And um, I would say that I've put in countless hours. I wouldn't say it's a side hustle for me. I think it's more of a passion. And when you work at something, when you truly work at something, I think it really can you can see things grow from there.
Hmm.
And I found that starting my own type of venture, uh, whether it's a business, whether it's a music project, whether it's something else, um, I think that's all worth it. And I felt like also um, taking auditions, for example, playing and practicing for that, you do learn a lot of things. But at the end, if you don't get the job, it can be uh, a bit quite disheartening, of course. So we've all have been through that, even in like just through even academics,
Hmm.
with testing and whatnot. So that's just a part of life. But I've always felt like with working on my own ventures that as I build towards it, there's all to gain and nothing to lose. So,
Yeah.
um, and also, I mean, in auditions, it should be that way too. It should feel like, oh, it's a process, anyways. But
Hmm.
um, so I felt like the more I've put into Bay Fine Strings, I've gotten um, the support back. And so I think that it was something that was a revelation or revelation,
Revelant. That's the
yeah, a revelation.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. The when you go into your workshop, you see a bunch of obviously cases and violins and stuff, but you also see a large number of tomes of fantastical collections of basically
But yeah, that's
catalog of
main thing
professional.
one big thing that fascinates me with running a shop and visiting with other dealers and other luthiers. I find that for myself, uh, it was founding Bay Fine Strings was a continuation of my own search for great tone, and that was and my own voice. And so I even prior to founding the shop, I had visited many different shops and tried to learn about, finding my own voice. And through that whole process, I gained a lot of insight, and I've started to use that. Now I use that insight on a very broad scale, and that experience to help others. And
Right. Yeah.
not only those in the trade, but those that are musicians and that are
Mhm.
connoisseurs and
Right.
of instruments as well. So I work with
Absolutely.
students that are just starting out with an entry level instrument to uh, priceless antiques and top contemporary makers. So
Right.
uh,
Yeah, and
yeah,
you have this great collection of books and um, kind
yeah,
of connoisseur uh, connoisseur um, reading material, and not, I mean, just collections of pictures, and it's really cool to see how, like, it's clear how much you love it, that you're
oh yeah. If you come
invested.
over, you can always. I am always happy to impart what I know about things. I
Hmm.
think that's being transparent about that's very important, and having accountability for that. And those are things that I've learned as well. As uh, when I first started, I felt like that there's things I learned, and some hard lessons, and I've learned from that and have tried to adapt to um, those things that I've learned. So uh, there's never a smooth road.
Right.
So, but I've taken advice, and I've taken what others have told me to heart, and I would try to change and adapt. And it's like that for any type of relationship too. Uh,
Mm.
and I feel like it's like that. So I've found that I've been philosophical about a lot of aspects of what I do. So
Good.
yeah.
There, if someone is starting, if someone sees your story and is curious, maybe, because I definitely relate very strongly with the idea of when you have your own project, when you have your own brand or whatever you want to call it, there's more impetus in a way to follow it because there's no gatekeeper. It seems kind of obvious, but in to musicians, any kind of performing art, there's this inherent aspect of it where you are sort of looking for acceptance, where we're
Well, I
going
mean,
to
you
an
learn from the great
audition.
masters, and yeah, I mean, there's so many aspects to the music industry. It's like limitless. And what we do is, I mean, when we go to conservatory, now things are changing. I mean, I see a lot of things changing even with initiatives at the our alma mater, right? And
Hmm.
things are changing. And so
Yeah.
uh, the 21st century musician is adapting, and so finding a vocation that can enhance a number of different things in our life, I think, is necessary. With all based on the fundamentals of knowing what we're doing,
Hmm.
and trying to put that into practice. So yeah.
Right. 100%. And I think it's inspirational because when you're going into conservatory, when you're going into an orchestra audition, when you're doing any of these things, which are great, and we need them, but it's also, no matter how many orchestra auditions there are, there's not enough, right, to fulfill the number of people in graduating conservatory every year. In fact, it's an extremely small number of jobs that open up um, per orchestrally trained musician. So then we have to answer to ourselves: what are we going to do? Are we going to focus all our time on our auditions? Are we going to split our time? Are we going to spend time actually doing something of our own, putting our own stamp on the
Yeah,
world?
and it's very interesting that you say that. It's the you see different musicians doing different things that happen naturally for them. I mean, we can look at an example of our uh, teacher, influential teacher in our earlier years, Nina Bodnar, she came
Mm-hmm.
back to a community that was where she had grown up and uh, influenced that community greatly
Mm-hmm.
by teaching and mentoring young kids, and that was invaluable. And we're both indebted to that. We're both a product of that. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and she started something along with her. It was there was a music and arts conservatory in Santa Barbara. It was founded by her mother and Lana Bodnar, and they together they created a community. And so that's, nowadays we're kind of the modern torchbearers of community in our own areas. So I think that is something that is is necessary. The orchestras are vital. The schools, or even in education, those things are vital. Public school education, private education, um, performance, and nowadays multimedia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, being online podcasts. I think it's great to inform and to discuss some deep subjects in regards to the music industry
Mm-hmm.
and recording. So there's a lot of things that one does, and even the modern day professional musician that's out and performing. If we look at, for example, Augustine Hodelick or Ray Chen, they're doing a lot of their own things as well, in addition
Mm-hmm.
to their main gig as playing with
Yep.
as soloists with orchestras.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're doing a lot of different initiatives. We see that happening. Or Nicola Benedetti, who started a foundation that mentors and fosters an El Sistema type of program in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's lots of different things that we're all doing, and I think that's a great thing for promoting and for enriching the community for what we do, and seeing the value of having music in uh, a community's life. It's not just
Yeah.
only kids these days. I mean, I know there's a lot of intrigue for adults wanting to play music as well,
Yeah.
even from never having learned before. And
Yeah. No,
maybe now they're seeing things on social media. It's in their feeds. I don't know, but it's interesting to see that.
yeah. No, it's really cool. I've had the opportunity to work with more adult students in the last few
Okay.
years in my own teaching practice, and it's been really cool. I love relating. I mean, it's funny how teaching children and adults is different. You're
Yeah, I mean,
because obviously,
nowadays are you kind of approaching that? Because now we're all uh, doing most of our teaching by video conference, and so I'm sure
yeah,
you're doing different types of setups and whatnot. And
right, yeah. So I'm teaching mostly over String Masters, which is Jeremy Cohen's and
oh yeah, great platform.
the team at String Masters that they're using. I mean, it's kind of a platform designed specifically for teaching string lessons. So there's folders and different kinds of media that you can access within the lessons, and
Yeah,
it's nice. And I'll also teach on Zoom, and I think I like using String Masters, especially for the adult students, because then they can record the lessons easily. They have access
okay,
to them. You
yeah.
can you can put notes in the part like live in the session. So
That's a nice aspect. I mean, it's like
yeah,
doing I guess video conference teaching piecemeal. It's possible, but it can be unless one is tech savvy and knows all of those different things, how to use multiple devices with being logged onto one
yeah,
account, for example. Yeah, I can
yeah,
see how it gets a little confusing. And
yeah.
yeah, I've used a lot of video actually with my teaching. I'll use my phone and just set it up on a stand, plug in a higher quality recording mic. It's still not as ideal as putting it through an audio interface with
Mm-hmm.
you know, some high-end mics that
Yeah.
are in my studio, but I I still think being able to do that quickly on the fly and just being able to throw it up on my video conference platform,
Mm-hmm.
I can do it within. Um, I mean, I just record it up and it uploads straight to their feed, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and it's worked great. But that's I felt that the little miniature video tutorials have really helped enhance what I
Cool.
do in online teaching. And
So are you doing
not
video
just a punch
tutorials?
in button, but it's a
Yeah.
actual separate video, so it just shows myself and not both sides like we're probably doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you doing the video? Are you just making tutorials for your students and sharing it to them via Drive, or how are you doing that?
Oh no, I'm uploading it straight. So like I will not all online platforms have a upload feature into a
Yeah.
chat, but
Yeah.
I know Skype does. I think WhatsApp might have that feature.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just go to my phone and as an attachment, you have to make sure if you're on logged on to, or if you're on Wi-Fi or if you have
Yeah.
unlimited data, then it's not a problem. You could
I
just
see.
put it up on there. So I found that it's a lot faster than loading something up on a drive. That takes a little more
Interesting.
time. Like while they're
Okay.
playing, I'm like, if you're looking at your phone, you can't really
Oh, I see.
them. But if you can just like click, 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 and it sends,
Mm-hmm.
and then while they're playing, while we've moved on, it loads. I can get like 5 or 6 videos in one session, and
I see.
I'll record it in front of them so they can see it, and they have their music in front of them. So yeah, it's a kind of a creative way of sharing something, and it's tailored specifically for them. So
So
I
are you?
have hundreds of videos
Yeah.
uh, now, just that I haven't put up. Maybe I should put them up on a
Yeah.
site
It
or
might
something.
be useful
Yeah.
to compile them in a way. So you're doing personalized video. So are you just demonstrating? Sorry, it's music teacher talk. Are you just demonstrating um like concepts to them like you would ordinarily in a lesson?
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
I
You
see.
probably have seen like this great series with Augustine, for example,
Yeah.
like where he describes certain aspects. I would say it's something similar to that, tailored to whatever specific thing it is, whether it's vibrato, whether it's a specific shift, a change of the finger,
Mm-hmm.
something with the bow hold, something with the posture, or just a demonstration or a tutorial about the actual music at hand, or a
Yeah.
demonstration like a performance. So actually, I feel like it's kept me in shape, because if I am recording the
Yeah.
etudes live for students, I'm holding myself accountable as a musician
Yeah.
every day, which is it's a good thing.
Cool. That
So
was
it's made me feel a lot less afraid of recording because I'm doing it every day, and that's interesting. Yeah,
mhm.
it's been a new thing, and now it's just like I feel like with recording, I'm fearless about that. So I've used to be very self conscious about it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to do the take. Like if we go into the studio and you're paying the big bucks, you can
Mhm.
feel more at I don't know, at least for myself, like I couldn't really get over that. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
you have, you're yeah, paying by the minute. And,
Yeah, each take wasted,
yeah.
you're like feeling the dollars slip away.
But yeah, of course you're not thinking about that, but at the same time, yeah, sometimes it's hard to always put yourself in certain mindsets, of course.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Sure.
but anyway.
That's really cool. I like that approach of creating content within the lessons. I'll think about that. It's a good idea. Um
It's just another way of communication, because I mean, the video conferencing is a means to an end. It's to educate and
mhm.
pass on your knowledge of being a master of your subject, which is violin in
Mhm.
our case. and for other platforms as well. I mean, we see that happening for learning languages or even just distance learning in public
Hmm.
school. But there's so
Yeah.
many different. I think there's a huge gap in how one communicates on this kind of platform.
Hmm.
And one that knows more can be more successful and perhaps have uh, retention.
Hmm.
I think one always has to kind of continue to innovate in that way too. So it kind of goes back to kind of what I was talking about with being passionate. We have to
Mm.
be passionate about what we do. So
Yeah.
being sincerely interested in learning more about the online platform and
Hmm.
how we video conference is also something that we have to continue to be an expert at. So
Right.
yeah, so
Interesting.
we can't just kind of okay, this is enough, and then oh, when are we going to go back? Because will we go back? Maybe. I've just
Yeah.
recently had somebody ask about, oh, when you go back or will you go back? And so it's I think there'll be some folks that actually kind of like this platform,
Yeah.
and they might not have to, get into the car and commute. So
Yep.
I think things. I think things will. It's changing a lot of things, but um, I think many are adapting, or we have to adapt for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I think it's it's likely, at least the way I've been thinking of it with my own teaching studio, is eventually we're mostly going to go back to normal, hopefully, within the next year. But that I'm assuming several people will want to maintain online lessons.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
just
I mean, it's
convenient.
true.
So,
Yeah, because we never know. Like, I mean, how much of the pandemic will be controlled. So we just have to kind of see. Um, I find that now I've been linked so much to a computer or a phone or to other things. It's like wire us up, but
yeah,
it's like
I just watched that the other
yeah,
day.
yeah, I know. It's just
Exactly.
like but we'll just have to kind of see how that goes. Um, I kind of wish that yeah we can get back to the trajectory of seeing others in person and also playing music for others in person. I
Yeah.
think there's no alternative to that, but
No.
I wonder if that will make the public and the community at large more lazy, so to speak,
Mhm.
to get out, or in fact, if they feel that they're safe to go out, that it will be supported even more. That remains to be seen. So, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, we don't know.
How have you adjusted to the pandemic? How has your schedule and your business changed?
I basically stopped doing for about a month, 2 months, doing anything in person, and I was doing a lot of curbside pickups for things at the time, and I fortunately I had a lot of experience with video conferencing because I would be commuting sometimes to Asia, where I would still try to maintain my studio. So, and that's a little more difficult when you're like transcontinental
Yeah.
with
I've
connection,
wondered.
for example. Yeah,
Yeah.
but so I was able to do that make the transition fairly easily and talk to the other side, like my students and their families.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, yeah, the shop, I I've found even now I've worked a lot with communications via email or video conference, as well as doing a lot of shipping.
I see.
Yeah, so uh, the Bayfine Strings Violin Shop has a approval system, so you're able to uh, ask about certain things that are listed on the website,
Hmm.
and one is able to try them for a week by signing out and filling out a form and showing ID and some other providing other information. and one can try something without having to pay for it. And
Yeah.
The string community has developed into that way because it's such a personalized thing. But with like other industries, it's not quite like that. It's kind of unique to
Yeah.
this particular industry. It's like if you wanted to try out a car for a week, they're not going to let you do that. Or even microphones. Like these days, like I've been
Right.
looking into investing, and I have invested in high end pro audio,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of pretty much have to just buy them
Right.
and then return them. But with an established shop, there's a rapport, and they have an insurance policy that allows them to do business in this way. So
Mm-hmm.
it's given what I do an advantage in that regard. Um,
Yeah.
I have to pay
It's
for the premiums, but that's fine. Insurance,
mm-hmm.
but it's really allowed me to um, make customers and clients feel comfortable about what they're trying to find. And so
That's
that
true.
with that kind of end goal, that's what's more important to me.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of funny. It's yeah, you there's not a lot of businesses that you can just walk out of a shop with $100,000
Exactly.
merchandise and try it out for a week.
Yeah.
But the system, I suppose, in the shops that deal in such fine instruments are kind of built to accommodate people who are looking for that
Right. Yeah.
amazing level of instrument. Speaking of the audio, yeah, tell me about. So this seems like a kind of direct response to the pandemic that I've noticed that you've done, which is that you're offering um, audio equipment. So tell me about that.
Oh, well, I'm not necessarily offering audio equipment per se, but I investing in that for demonstration purposes to accurately portray instruments
Oh, okay.
for how they sound. So I'm not
So
like
you're not renting it out.
I'm not well. I suppose I could. There's a collection of microphones. Yeah, there's a collection of
Okay.
microphones. If you want to
I,
try some Schups mics and some nice Sennheisers and
yeah.
some Earthworks and
Hmm.
AEA
I
mics.
see.
Maybe, yeah, I'm
I
not sure what you're
misunderstood.
using there, but
I
your
have a
large
this is a
diaphragm condenser
yes,
with pop
exactly. This is
filter.
a yeah. This is a
But yeah,
Rode
right now
ATV.
I'm plugged into a Blumline pair of AEA N8 ribbon microphones.
Nice.
They
Sounds
work
good.
really well. Yeah, they don't for bowed stringed instruments. I think it's quite nice when you are putting it straight into a nice audio interface. They're
Hmm.
active mics. They work very well. The new technology for ribbons, ribbon mics are like a certain type of microphone that kind of helps transient response. Transient response, kind of like high pingy, clear articulation
Hmm.
articulated sounds, and kind of softens them. And so it can make a recorded response less tinny and more
Nice.
accurate. So it's like when if you have like a really bad old voice recorder and
Yeah.
you put it up close to a violin, it doesn't sound anywhere like how a real violin sounds.
Yeah.
It's because that dynamic microphone just um, has a very high transient response, and that's pretty much all
Right.
it takes, and just treble
Yeah.
without any
Yeah.
bass. So
Huh.
it doesn't clearly represent the sound of bowed stringed instruments,
I
and
see.
so I found only pretty much high end pro audio can clearly capture
Hmm.
the sound of a bowed stringed instrument. It's
I see.
the way it spreads the sound is different than um, a flute or trumpet or other instruments. So
Interesting. So you're
ribbon
not
mics are great. Condensers and ribbon mics
yeah.
are what you'll want to look into.
Hmm.
And there's other microphones that have polar patterns, different like
Hmm.
recording patterns that can help with depending on the room you're in. So yeah, I've had to learn a lot about that, about audio and recording, and I think that I did a lot of that earlier in my career in my 20s. I did a lot of recording, both for um, different projects,
Hmm.
my own projects, or other like uh, more like I did some recording for television projects and some other things. So, but I'm kind of out of that industry these
Hmm.
days. But yeah, so
Cool.
I
So
learned a lot about yeah.
you've been investing in audio equipment and the knowledge mostly for recording samples of your instruments and
Yes, and
yeah,
also now it's also enhancing what I do with video conference teaching. So I think
right.
it's yeah, kind of it makes sense. Yeah.
I see.
And so as a performing artist, I think it's important if you're wanting to record, if you have a room that's good enough,
Hmm.
it's worth it to look into finding that setup. Of course, yeah, a good studio and a good audio engineer um, is that's vital. And you can always work hand in hand with an audio engineer.
Hmm.
Uh, if you have a sound that you like and you have microphones that you like, you can use that wherever you go. For example,
Yeah.
if you know how if you know there's a certain sound that you like that's kind of either colored or accurate,
Hmm.
then it's good to go with that. So I found
Hmm.
that for myself, having this, they call it for audio engineers, a mic locker. And so basically, if you have a collection of different things that, different tools that allow you to accurately portray what you want recorded, I think is important.
Right. That's great. Yeah, it's cool seeing on your YouTube channel, which is what, by the way?
Yeah. Oh, it's Bayfine Strings Violin Shop.
There we go. Very nice.
And
So
it has demos of violins, violas, and soon to be added cellos, um, and other tutorials. So I'm working on some tutorials for like how to change strings. That's out already. How to tune will be a very important one for
mhm,
the community and other maintenance things and
awesome.
yeah, and I would like to start putting up some small recorded projects, but I'm doing other projects as well. So
Excellent. Yeah, speaking of which, so on your YouTube and social media recently you've been doing a Meet the Maker series, right? So
right, yeah,
tell me a
yeah,
little bit about that.
yeah. So I started out this type of interviewing process with a good friend of mine, Gilles Nair, who makes a fantastic bow called the Tete Bêche, and it's a bow that has a titanium head and titanium fixed frog,
Yeah.
and it has an adjuster that pulls the hair from the inside of the frog, and it's self-reharing, so you can get a bow maker that to make plugs, and you can just put on the hair yourself
Hmm.
whenever you need one. So it's an
Yep.
all-season bow because it's as it if the hair stretches, it's not going to make the frog pull over to the adjuster side.
Hmm.
So it maintains a stability in all weather. So whether it's dry or hot, or if you go to the mountains or if you go to the tropics, it'll be stable.
Hmm.
And it's an international traveling bow as well because it doesn't have any materials that are CITES or
Yeah.
that have regulations on them so
Yeah.
far. But anyways,
I
yes.
want.
So in regards to that, like basically, I started this interview series with Gilles, but I never called it Meet the Maker. And then I have this video out. It's actually out. It's posted on the Bayfine Strings YouTube page,
Hmm.
and there are links up to that video. I also did one with Victor Bernard, as well as the first episode, which was of a luthier named Damien Rosenstiel. And that just happened a couple weeks ago. And I have some other makers lined up to doing this. And basically, it's kind of like what we're doing, getting to know each other and spread the word about what we do and to inspire and let others know about the work that we do. And so I ask the makers questions about their philosophy and about their own work. And because I have a lot of experience as a performing musician and commissioning instruments with these makers, it becomes a very active dialogue. And so I learn a lot from those. It's quite fun, and I hope it also enriches the community as well, and gets those to understand their own vocations and their own commitment and their life work. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I find that luthiers are some of the most focused and very in tune with what they do, super passionate about what they do, and have a lot of integrity. So it's to be respected.
Oh yeah.
And no matter what kind of price point one tries to offer their instruments, it's that everyone genuinely tries to put in their best effort, and
Yeah.
I see that. I see that within.
Mm-hmm.
I see that within the trade.
I love the. I want to put up a picture in the clip of the Tet Besh bow because
Oh,
it's so bizarre
sure.
looking.
You got it. Yeah.
It's really fun to look at this thing. It looks kind of like this. It's like a steampunk Art Nouveau kind of interpretation
Oh, yeah.
of the bow,
Yeah,
and it's I mean, it plays amazingly. So, as a musician, there is obviously no compromise in this design. In fact, it in many ways
yeah,
it seems an improvement.
that players either love it or they love or hate it. But I mean, I think that
It's very bizarre looking.
work that I've been doing, though, I feel like that the hate part of it is starting to change, and so and I think that the aspect of all of the things it offers, it may start to change the status quo about the traditional look of bows, and I mean, all bows are made in the traditional way still.
Yeah.
But it offers a lot of great functionality, and I still support and respect the design of the traditional bow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost perfect, except I feel like that the pulling hair is that's the only thing, But at the same time, it supports bow makers that rehair bows and maintain bows.
Right.
So
Right.
I think that's a worthy thing. At the same time.
That's true. That's true.
And also, yeah, many musicians don't know how to rehair or change the hair. It's a little more complicated. You need tools, and it's not like it's. I mean, if you think about like for oboists, they actually make their own reeds and they make their own. They do a lot of their own handiwork, right? But violinists tend to not do that. For whatever reason, it's just been the status quo, right?
I after seeing and talking to oboists, painstakingly lamenting their reed constructing activities, it takes them so long. I think.
Well, yeah,
I think violinists are.
I spend a lot of time at the workbench doing setups on instruments, and I have done a lot of studies on that, and I've gotten a lot of experience. But I wouldn't encourage that on musicians that aren't interested in going in the trade for sure, because there's a lot of it's a whole nother world actually. And for me, I've been able to understand and see both sides of that world. I don't think I would ever become a luthier, but I can do setups, and
Yeah.
that's very important and passion. It's a passion of mine because I can also enhance instruments. I don't do like recambers for bows, but I will do certain setups for instruments.
Hmm.
Keeping those measurements in mind, and for things that I'm unfamiliar doing, I have um, some trusted, well-trained, and award-winning luthiers assist with that and help, so I can make, Bay Fine Strings is a full-service shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You also
I
have
don't do
the
the repairs, for example. I have a friend do that and do restorations for bows.
yeah.
But
You also have
as
the line, right? The Bay Fine Strings line of your own instruments.
Oh yeah, there are, yeah, and I have those imported, made for Bay Fine Strings, my own line, imported from China. I know there's a flood of Chinese instruments in the market, but they also offer a good price point for and affordability for a lot of, and have made stringed instruments more accessible
Hmm.
for the community. And I found that in that lower price bracket, I can set up instruments very well and ready to go, better than I can with antiques that I would have to find either secondhand or at an auction block or something like
Yeah.
that, where the measurements, you'd have to put in a lot of work just to set up one instrument. And so
Hmm.
that was something that was a little bit difficult for me to kind of go grapple, because I didn't have that kind of time to just work on individual ones. I would prefer
Yeah.
to work on the higher end instruments, or redo a setup for a master maker's instrument, for example.
Hmm.
And so I felt like my time was more better served doing that, rather than raising necks for uh, like a factory instrument from the early 20th century.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, like investing in my own line was a great idea. And I offered like a premier line, which is the entry level and rental line, and they're affordable. They start from 550 to 750 in price for everything. Violin, bow, case, rosin, shoulder rest, microfiber cloth. In the future, I might offer a little bit of software or something like that. Not software, but maybe like some type of tutorials, basic tutorials. Like
Nice.
they subscribe and on the website, and they can
Hmm.
see videos.
That's a great
So,
idea.
so I think that that's something that's been a recent thing that I've wanted to do, but it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would
And
you say to musicians who are trying to work on their own project, about, like, even in just any of the things we've talked about? I think one of the things that sets you apart is kind of what you just talked about obviously following your passion, but also your sense of follow through. I think it's easy to talk about starting your own business, or start about your own violin line or series, but you seem to have this ability to follow through. So I was wondering if you could just talk about that.
uh, it takes a lot of courage, I think, and just like doing a big move. When you decide to do that, you take leaps of faith. And so I found that taking leaps of faith most of the time have paid off rather than not. So that's just been whenever I've felt like for myself that I put myself in an uncomfortable position. That means I'm not reckless about it, but
Mm-hmm.
whenever I've put myself in those uncomfortable positions, I felt like I've grown from it.
I see.
And so I've learned a lot. I've made mistakes, and but yet life still goes on, and we continue to try to do better and
Mm-hmm.
do the best we can. So yeah, I think that it's just like that when we work on music. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
way. So
Right.
sometimes we might have reservations about taking on that Paganini, or taking on that that modern piece or something like that, or
Mm-hmm.
some other type of repertoire. That's a challenge, but as musicians, sometimes we take those challenges and we're like, oh, we have the time to invest in it. So um, I found that, yeah, that that training as a in music has kind of taught me to kind of work in that way. So, but although I find that there are lots of projects on the in the works that frankly it's hard to find time to actually put everything together.
Yeah.
There's a project on Gaglianos that I'm working on, and it's because of various things, needs that come up through the shop. It's hard to focus and just put that time. The other thing kind of takes precedence first, and so and serving needs of customers. But I have these projects that are a lot of the content is already there,
Yeah.
and that I want to put forth and forward. And I know that we've done some projects together, and
Yep.
perhaps we'll follow up on it. But
Yeah.
it's always on my mind, and I know that we have to still serve our basic needs at the time
Yeah.
for the task at hand, so to speak.
Yeah. That's a good observation. I think it's also, especially for creative people in the arts, a lot of the times, speaking for myself, the problem is not the lack of ideas, but it's like the volume of ideas. It's like there's a lot of things that are exciting, a lot of things that are possible. So then you
Right.
want to,
And
you get
sometimes
one.
it's hard to know how to get into it.
Yeah, and then you have this limited.
It's like, and then you see like those that are also musicians that get into arts administration, for
Right.
example. I've seen a lot of my friends and colleagues go into that route, or go into librarian work or other types of work that are related to music.
And the challenge is to basically choose the highest value thing for that moment, because you can have 50 different ideas, but if you don't do any of them, I mean, that's why I started this podcast. It was one among many ideas that sounded great for me to do since I had a little extra Corona time.
And you have full control of what you do, and whom you
yeah
choose to work with you on your platform. So
yeah, it's I think for me, aside from my teaching and aside from my performing activities, I knew I wanted to do this at some point, so I just had to eventually make the choice to start it, and it's going great. The response has been good so far.
Maybe you'll start to get prototypes or something like that. Well, you'll review other stuff, like review gear or something like that. Who knows? Right?
Cool.
Yeah, get on the phone or something like that.
That's cool.
Let me know. I'm happy to let you know, like people that I know that are in that they might be able to sponsor certain aspects of what you do.
That would be fantastic. Yeah. No, that's great. The possibilities are endless, and you don't.
That's not the point, but I mean that's something that can continue to help grow your platform to enrich the community. I think a lot of folks are using Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I think they're using that as a way to have support, but one can still do that through their own platform to have support, like a subscriber base, for example. But it just offers, like, it's almost like a third party way of just, they take a small cut, but at the same time, it makes it easier for those that don't have something set up to be supported.
It's true. And
so, I think that could be something that one does with the podcast, as your base grows. And so,
I think the thing that I'm trying to establish, and I've had Patreon and the thing that I'm trying to establish is the ability to make content that, in like how you talk about with your shop, where you're trying to do something that serves people and has a connection to the community. What I'd like to do with this podcast is provide conversations with people that people find entertaining, people find useful, people find helpful enough to actually want to listen and share and spread. And that's why I have you on today. I think you're an example of someone who's really taken your own initiative to be creative and be entrepreneurial, and you've really taken charge, and you've created something that is of value to many people. So I applaud you, sir. And
appreciate it.
yeah, and so I don't know how exactly we're going to do this, but I do want to briefly address our long awaited. Actually, I had some friends ask me, because I talked at the time of this project. Yeah, I leaked it a little bit, the $1 Million Duo, and yeah, so friends have been asking me, whatever happened to that project? And it's like, okay, well, so yeah, we're going to release, probably as part of this podcast, or maybe in conjunction with this podcast, a video of us playing Bach double concerto on two instruments worth more than $1 million, and that's one of the great honors of your shop, is that you have the privilege to work with brokers and dealers on the finest of fine instruments. And we both thought it would be a great idea to create a series called $1 Million Duo, where we play on the best of instruments and talk about it. So we're going to try to provide the performance, at least, of these things, and maybe even just release our first episode.
Yeah, it's an instrument that was a Guarneri composite, as well as a Guadagnini.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, some very fun instruments to play on.
Yeah, that was a trip, hanging on to a Guarneri for a couple weeks and learning it and playing it. That was a dream. And playing with and hearing you on the Guadagnini was great as well. And I think that's a similar example to what we were just talking about of choosing our projects. I think that was more than a year ago we recorded it.
Yeah, 2019, right? Yeah, about a year ago. Yeah, probably.
And it was good. We had a crew, and we filmed it, and it was a really good learning experience.
Until like what, 3 or 4 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah, we got donuts. We got donuts at like 3 a.m. after the shoot, and and we never released it. I think because we I don't know why. Do you think? I think it was
a lack of the whole team compiling things together. It was a little bit scattered. But if we were able to streamline it, yeah, I mean, that's how projects are. Sometimes if you're able to have multiple parties come, put things together quickly, or even respond quickly, I think that's super important. I've always been the kind of person that responds very quickly. I mean, when you send texts or something, I'm very quick about it.
Yeah.
Even though, I get lots of calls or texts, emails, I'm pretty quick to respond. I pretty much address everything as much as I can. Otherwise, then I would be known as an unreliable person, and I don't want to do that. So,
right. Yeah, so it was a really interesting thing, and I think it was, this format for podcasting, I think, is suited to casual conversation, suited to following the flow of talk as it goes. But then I think creating that video, we learned that in order to create like a YouTube just quick, snappy, to the point kind of video, you really have to script it out minute or second by second.
To make sure you understand those types of things. So, I mean, it's created a whole generation of DIY type media moguls.
Yeah. And what's funny is everything
now consumer companies are catering to that, because that's where it is. I mean, we know.
It's true. And ever since we filmed the Million Dollar Duo, it's so funny because I've seen so many similar ideas of whether it's two set or even soloists will put out videos of like $1 violin versus 50 million.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
oh, okay, there's a market for this. But hey, I mean, I would like to release it as it stands and just see where it could take us. But
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think also that kind of platform it'll there'll be other ways to use that platform, not only just for that kind of purpose. It's just
yeah,
a name. So for sure.
yeah, it was fun, and no, it'll be good to revisit that and yeah, again, see what the possibilities are. You never know what the possibilities are when you start something, but if you have the passion and the right reasons, then anything is possible.
For sure, for sure.
So, well, thank you so much. Did you have anything else you wanted to plug or anything else you
I
they're
think
burning?
covered a lot of things. I'm happy to, see do a future podcast. I'm sure there's
Yes, we'll have to have you back.
can cover that we
Yes,
haven't. Maybe do an MDD one or something like
that'd
that.
be great. That'd be great. I think
So,
it might be a fun integration to, you know, figure out a way of doing the quicker content for MDD, but then we can even spend longer and break down and talk about the instruments in a more fluid way on podcast. That might be a good way to break it down. But anyway,
yeah.
we'll discuss more.
Uh,
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Thomas. It's always a pleasure.
yep, it was a pleasure.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.